Well, I think we had it. I think we have to feel very proud about our team and what we did. We could score seven goals today against a team that did very well in the other games, and I think we put them in a really difficult position today. And to be honest, I think we should win this game.
Man, it's good to have him here. Just playing against him is something else different. Especially, we grew up all watching him and all of that, but that's still we could. I think as a team, I think we could have done better as the players as well, and then that's just a disappointment for the whole team. And yeah, it's just one of those games.
Well, hey, there we are. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to Afterburn Soccer Show. I'm your host, Nathan Hill, at Nathan J. Hill, and with me is, as usual, Jose Carmona at El Chico
Hola.
Carmona. Well, yeah, we're here to talk about an eventful weekend for FC Dallas fans, a sold-out crowd, Leagues Cup action, Inter Miami coming to town with the world's best player, Lionel Messi, who proved that billing with a couple of finishes that make you angry, because when it's scored against you, when it's scored on your team, yeah, you're pretty cool with it. But what a game, what an intense match, packed crowd, a lot of casuals, celebrities in the house. It lived up to the billing, except for FC Dallas fans who come away disappointed as FC Dallas goes down in penalty kicks in a tough match, an emotional match. And so we have a lot to get to. We're just going to start there. We're going to get talking, and we want to have your comments, your questions, FC Dallas fans. What were your reactions? Were you disappointed? Were you satisfied with the result? Is it just luck? Especially when it goes to PKs, it feels like it's 50-50 for any team in the world. Is it just luck? Is it just a little bad luck? Did you see enough that you think, hey, we're out of this competition, but I'm excited about the future for FC Dallas and for Major League Soccer? We want your takes. Hit us up on YouTube, Facebook, comment live on the stream, and we will take your comments and questions live. But yeah, like I wrote today about it because I've had a hard time putting a lot of thoughts into it. This was a match that just exemplified everything is beautiful about soccer. There was there were amazing goals. There was fight. Like, neither team really gave up. There were great storylines, not just from Messi, but from Bernard Kumungo, from Alan Velasco. There were some terrible soccer mistakes that you just think, like, for both sides. There were probably some missed calls. There were probably, some up and down refereeing. There was a great atmosphere, and there was disappointment, and there was glory to be had. And it's just all of that. And so, yeah, you sit with that as an FC Dallas fan, you can marvel at the spectacle and still go like, we should have advanced. This team blew it. This team should have found a way forward, but this is soccer. It can be cruel, right? Jose, what was your takeaway from the night?
Actually, I think it's one of the most exciting matches I've ever seen. I predict that FC Dallas earned quite a few new fans based off of that match. I mean, Americans love goal scoring. They love high scoring games. They love a good. They love drama. They love seeing comebacks. They love seeing uh, yeah, beautiful. So Americans like teams to win in style. It's like most Americans aren't satisfied with a boring 1-0 win or a defensive. They want to feel like they've witnessed an event. And this was, without a doubt, the best match of this tournament. And one of the best matches that you'll see between two MLS teams. At least the best one I've seen this season. And so I think Dallas did themselves proud in going toe to toe. Let's remind everyone that everyone was basically considering FC Dallas an afterthought. If you went out and looked at the predictions, some of the prediction lines that people were uh, throwing out were 4-2. I mean, 4-0. we're talking. Everyone was picking Dallas to lose by double digit, double goals. At least 2 goals minimum was the average I was seeing. And mind you, I'm not even including the ridiculous ones. So in that case, the fact that FC Dallas, honestly, um, I watch another podcast. I was a guest on the Battered uh, uh, Huron podcast, who cover Miami, and one of the guys there predicted that. Hey, how's it going, Marcin? One of the guys there predicted a 4-2 uh, Miami win, which honestly, my thought at that moment was, boy, that's a disrespectful goal line, score line, and my thought was, which I was going to send him a text, and I opted not to, opted just leave it be. But my response to him was going to be, if Miami's going to score 4 on FC Dallas, then you can bet that FC Dallas is going to score 4 on Miami, because at the end of the day, Miami's defense
Right.
is their Achilles heel. They are, in my opinion, hot garbage on defense. And Dallas may have, without, they may have, what do you call it? Miami may have achieved a Pyrrhic victory in that, yes, they defeated Dallas, but Dallas showed other teams what they needed to do to defeat Miami, and that is go after their fullbacks, their left backs, right backs, harass Busquets, and basically their defense is so slow that what Dallas was doing all match, the teams that will be playing going forward will be able to replicate those tactics. And I will not be shocked if Miami is involved in shootout after shootout until they're eliminated. Because at the end of the day, yes, they have a lot of talented players, but that team's still meshing. And while they will be able to score goals, they've proven that they will not be able to prevent goals. So that's my opinion on that game.
Mm,
I was
yeah.
satisfied with the result, because
Yeah.
if you had asked me, I would have said it's going to go to penalty kicks. And unfortunately, Dallas, my confidence in them after the losing to Charlotte, which, it was a draw at Charlotte, but losing the penalty kicks, my
Yeah.
confidence in their PK abilities were not that great. So if you would have asked me, put a gun to me and said put it to score, I would have said it's going to go to PKs and Miami will advance on PKs. But they were not going to embarrass Dallas. And by the way, that draw against Charlotte is looking better and better every week.
Mm-hmm.
We were all like, "Hey, this is a team they should be able to beat." We were all disappointed in that result, and now who's playing Miami but Charlotte? So, uh,
Well, they should
I
have beaten Charlotte. I mean, come on, Jose. That was
no
a
no
game
I,
again they
I
had.
I do agree
Yeah.
that they should have beaten them, but I'm saying the fact that they've advanced. The opinion was we should have beaten them because they were an inferior team, and Dallas was much better, and we're at home. I'm just saying Charlotte's proven that they're not as bad a team as we thought,
Mm, sure. Sure.
and
Okay.
that the comeback last minute draw against FC Dallas was not a fluke, as they repeated it against Houston in spectacular fashion, by the way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying I'm happy. 2 wins, 2 draws. PKs are a crapshoot. I'm very satisfied with the way this team, which I was suspecting, I was of the opinion before the tournament even began, that this would be another U.S. Open Cup lineup. That they would not take this match seriously, and Nico had been talking that way in the lead up to it, and color me surprised, and I'm very happy with the results. The defense, I think, is a little disappointing on our end, but 11 goals in 4 matches is nothing to sneeze at.
Mm.
A team that had trouble finding anyone to score besides uh, Ferreira. I mean, I think Ferreira scored what, maybe 2 goals this whole tournament.
Yeah, I think so.
So a team that
Mm.
basically solely relied on Ferreira for goals is suddenly finding other goal scorers, and that's exciting.
Yeah, so let's work our way through what we learned from this. I mean, I agree. I think, although if you look at each goal in this one from Miami and what the defense did or did not do, obviously the own goal for Marco Farfan was just inexplicable and super gutting. You know, gosh, you take that away and maybe Miami doesn't mount the extra energy to come back in this one, But they knew at that point they had nothing to lose. They cut that deficit in half. But yeah, the opening goal from Messi it's just the Messi special. It's unsavable. It almost was called back, and I thought that was a decent call because Martinez was jumping out of the way, even if they say it wasn't clear and obvious. Well, anyway, I don't think it was clear and obvious to overturn it, but fine. But that's also a goal with like any team scouting Messi has to know like this is what Messi does. Like you cannot like leave him unattended at the top of the box. That's just not. I mean, so even if it leaves someone else open, so fine. Teams are going to know that. Now, you've done it twice in this tournament. He'll
It's
probably do it a third time.
acclimation, though. It's the league's gonna have to acclimate to the fact that that they've shown they can prove they've proven that they can come out and score early
Yeah.
before you're settled in, before the teams. So that's just it. Is teams are gonna have to basically come out and be on high alert immediately, not try to settle into the game. Let's face it. Once MC Dallas settled into the game, they were the better team.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
The first half it was all FC Dallas. I mean, and yeah, so fascinating kinds of things, and then the own goal again. We already mentioned that, but the second goal was run a play, and it was disappointing that FC Dallas didn't pick that up. That's a letdown of the defense, and the final goal was a free kick, that was unsavable. Messi probably cheated. He inched the ball forward on that viral video going around, but that's what players do. That's what soccer players do. Even on
that's
corner
what
kicks,
players do.
they want to get their little position right, But maybe if it was that 2 steps out, the ball doesn't go in, But whatever. I think the
Refs were
refs should
like,
be able to see that, but
no,
whatever.
the refs in this game when Messi was on the ball were like those WWE refs when they're being distracted by the corner guy. The
Right.
guy's like runs in with a chair and hits the other guy, and then turns around and is like, "Oh my God, that guy's
I
on the
didn't
ground."
see that. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's kind of what that made me think. It's like, oh hey, look at the ref. He's completely got his back
But
turned to Messi.
but my,
Can't
my
see
big
anything.
picture defensively, like who 3-4 weeks ago, Giovanni Jesus looked like a bust. He looked like as a right back. Now I wouldn't say bust. That's too strong, but he just looked like he was a project. It was going to take him another into the next season for him to maybe begin to really. But he has come along strong in this League's Cup, and that's good for him. I mean, right now I really like what he's been doing back there. It seems like he's getting his feet under him. And I thought Tafari was just so good in this match, and he is. I mean, he's an every weekend starter if he's available. What do you think?
I want to say something about Giovanni Jesus, and this goes to all UFCD fans out there that were basically harping on him. The fact is that Giovanni Jesus was coming off an injury and was probably rushed back because of the Tuomasi injury. And I swear that, in my opinion, while everybody was saying, hey, like you said, basically treating him like a bust, the guy was essentially playing at less than 100% because, they had no choice, really no choice. And he played like it. He played like a guy coming off an injury who really should have been coming off the bench as opposed to starting. And of course, it took him several games. I thought he played really well against Miami. Believe it or not, I was impressed with some of his defensive things that he did out there. And yes, it was not a great game, but I thought he had a solid game. I thought he was solid in defense. I thought he looked good, and I think they actually tried to target him initially. Uh, and of course, with the Alba thing at the beginning,
Yeah.
you could say they were successful. But once he settled in, he was rock solid on defense. And and like I said, he was just a guy who, coming off injury, it takes time to shake that off, get back. and yeah, I think he finally found his groove. Unfortunately for him, Tomasi is back now, and it's
Well,
gonna be like the preseason, like coming out preseason. They're gonna have to battle out to see who's the
sure.
that
I think they'll
fight's
both
gonna
get
be
some
going all over
minutes,
again.
but I'm fine
I want
giving
to give you a hot
Jesus.
take, by the way. I got
Okay.
a hot take for you. The Cerrillo trade may have cost FC Dallas this match because when they were up 4-2, wouldn't it have been great to have another defensive mid come in to help solidify that defense? And honestly, once Velasco left, that harassment that you were seeing on Busquets and was gone. Basically, Velasco getting off the pitch is really began the downfall, you know. And I'm not saying offensively,
No,
um,
I agree
Cerrillo
with
was going
you.
to replace offense, but I'm saying defensively, he would have been able to replicate some of the things that Velasco was doing, which we didn't get from Siki or Paxton, who really looked at less than 100% out there. And that's all I'm saying is having having traded your only other defensive mid, and then they go into a defensive formation, stance down the stretch. That
Yeah,
probably cost us more. And
I'm with you. No, I think that's I don't think that's a super hot take. I mean, you
I just
wonder about the
that's
subs at the end and the speed of the game and just what was unfolding, but uh,
I mean, if you would have asked me before the game and said, uh, you know, because of the heat, these teams are both going to have to go into their benches. Who's got the better bench? I would have said FC Dallas easily. But looking back, look at the guys that came in. Paxson, not 100% coming off injury. Tomasi, not 100% coming off injury. Ariola, not 100% coming off an injury. Siki, not 100% coming off an injury. And then, of course, you had Ansa, who had looked good. And this is really his only first bad game he's had. But again, another guy who's basically still incorporating into the team. And so those are your guys that subbed in, and you're like,
and really even more than Pax, I think
if they were
Siki
if
was
they
the
were,
one who fouled, right? He fouled Messi, or that he fouled that led to
I
the
think
free kick.
Siki was one and Ansa was the other, wasn't he? There
Oh,
was
that may
two.
have been it. Yeah, it was just
But I'm just saying they played like guys that were rusty, or not in form, or less than 100%. And so, yes, if they were 100% healthy, I would say our bench was better. But the fact is the guys that came in were guys that really needed minutes.
we got the
Holy,
Dallas Beer Destroyer in the house.
holy smokes!
I saw a link and I was like, I'm joining.
All right. What's your opinion on the game, by the way, since you're here?
Are you
Oh,
working out
well,
right
sorry.
now?
Yeah, I'm working out. What was the question?
What's your opinion on the FC Dallas Miami game, and any hot takes you can give us?
Oh, I think League's Cup is garbage for pricing fans out. And I think FC Dallas probably should have done more to communicate ahead of time to see what the expectations were. And I pissed off all their fans as a result, which is nothing new because when it comes to ticketing, they're always screwing up, right?
Yeah.
And then other than that, I thought the team put up a good fight. Obviously, a lot of boneheaded plays took us out of the game, but I mean, it's probably the biggest game in FC Dallas history. So I'm glad I was able to attend.
Excellent.
Yeah. The whole ticketing thing is something we haven't even touched upon yet, and I
I,
appreciate the fact that it's already been this conversation going on, like for other fan bases, like, hey, get ready if you're going to host Inter Miami, get ready for some shenanigans. It's like Taylor Swift concert tickets or something. It's crazy.
yeah, but still, he's right. The way that club handled it, and and I think the league really enforced this on them, had a lot to do with that. So I think the club handled it badly, and the fact that the league, you could tell the league was meddling in on how this all was handled, not just with us, but across the tournament. I think that just added further chaos, and then Messi, and then I mean, because let's face it, it's not like the ticket situation was ideal before Messi even showed up. For this whole Leagues Cup thing, it's been a fiasco, and it just got increasingly worse.
That's right. Some love for that beard. Um, So, I mean, my other hot take from this is I don't know when you put Bernard Kamungo on the bench. I think you keep starting him, and I think even as Paul Arriola gets healthy, maybe Paul starts in place of Obrian. But I love Velasco in the middle as well. I don't think you put Velasco back on the wing unless that suits your opponent. But I love what I saw from Velasco this League's Cup, and I want to see that in Major League Soccer. I just think it's a terror to opponents, and then to have Obrian and Kamungo or Kamungo and Areola, it's just a nice set of problems to present to your opponent. What do you think, Jose?
I think you're right. I think you should be having Areola and Kamungo as your new wingers, starting wingers, and you. I mean, Velasco looks like a $9 million man. He looks rejuvenated in that central role. Which, by the way, when he was playing on the wing, he was, going inwards. He was going towards the center, and so I think having him in the center, you're seeing what we've been wanting from an 8, honestly, an attacking 8 that we haven't really had. We're seeing from Velasco what we wanted to see from Paxton.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing, and the defensive work rate is really, we're all falling over ourselves how great he looked on the attack, but some of his defensive work he was doing on Busquets was like, wow. Here's a guy who's motivated, and he was showing it. He was playing with passion. He was tackling hard. I've never seen Velasco look so good both ways. Both ways. He looked like a completely different player.
Good stuff.
You got to bottle that. And I'm excited to see Velasco stay in the center. And I know that means that Paxton will have to be coming off the bench, but let's face it, I don't think Paxton's been 100% the entire season, and it may do him well to be coming off the bench, especially with the kind of energy he can bring. Having a guy like him come in with this kind of work rate late running at tired legs. I think that's great.
Go ahead.
I got a question.
Sure.
Do we think Paxton's lack of performance, because I completely agree with you, is that a result of him not being game fit or mentally unsound for the time being? Or is that coach's decision on strategy of what he's supposed to be doing on the field?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I don't think he's game fit. I think he looked kind of slow out there, in all honesty. And we've known he has a sort of injury, a lingering kind of injury, not something he's going to recover, something he's basically got to nurse and play through. And he's going to have games where he looks good and games where he looks like he looked in that match. And like I said, do you want that for an entire game? No, you want that. You want a guy like that coming off the bench. And I think it'll be, if Paxton's healthy, he'll be battling Velasco for playing time. And and I won't be upset if they rotate them and take turns coming off the bench. But right now, Velasco played so good that why would you bench him at all?
Yeah, he's been a totally new player. He's been rejuvenated in that position. I love it. I mean, we've all talked about him playing in the 10 role for a long time, even back when Jesus was experimenting with it. I feel like that we did. We experimented a little bit and it wasn't going to work out. But now it's just like, why haven't we been doing this all along?
Yeah, I think it's because they weren't 100% sure he could handle the defensive end, which he has been improving defensively throughout the season. And he looks like a guy that can go both ways now. But you got to think, with the 2 added additions that are coming in, the 2 defensive mids, it gives the team options of playing maybe a 4-2-3-1 with Velasco as a actual 10 if they wanted to. It just gives the team options that they didn't have before, because let's face it, our defensive mid pairing played better together than by themselves. Now with new options coming in, you may be able to go single 6 or dual mids, D mids, and be able to have someone coming off the bench that plays that role, which we didn't have before. It was one or the other or both. It's interesting.
That's why I brought up the fact that maybe Paxton was getting instructions by the coach because we were selling Surreal. He had been known for a while. We're going to make that move. We needed a stopgap, and maybe he was being tasked to try out what he could do defensively and staying back home a little bit more often. And
I
plus,
agree.
the games he's come in has resulted in us wanting to hold on to leads, and it hasn't worked out too well, obviously. But I thought maybe that was more instructions instead of his like reflection on his actual game form, but I could be wrong because I love Paxton, but it does seem with the current style that he's playing right now, he's taking a step back, and I don't see him starting anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't recall, but Martinez didn't come in the game, did he? I don't think he did,
No, I don't think
which
so.
is surprising if you think about it, because up 4-2, you think, and with only one true defensive mid player, you think Martinez would have been brought in and they would have gone three in the back or five in the
Would
back.
would that have been best? I mean, because like honestly, what Miami was searching for the whole time is to get fouls around the box to give Messi a chance, and that's what we gave him at the end. I thought we
This is
should have
true, but
had more of a mid press or a higher press with a mid ball.
well, this is true, but what I'm getting at is the game went that way anyway. Once Velasco and Kamungo came off, I mean, Dallas was basically playing defense the remainder of the
Right.
match. I mean, they were basically in their own half of the field. So that's what I'm saying is I'm surprised Martinez didn't come in because you end up playing in that manner anyway. So and you could have played him as a more of a basically kept him back as a cover defensive player, and then asked one of the other two to basically be more like a defensive mid, like a second defensive mid, going forward instead of staying back. So it would be like a there'd be three in the back, but technically one would basically be more of a stopper, uh, coming out to help Quinion when necessary. So I'm just surprised. I'm just saying they end up playing that way anyway. So why not have another true defender out there?
Well, I guess my question, too, coming off of that, we got two new signings. That's the other news for FC Dallas this past weekend, both D-mid types. We have a veteran from the Spanish League who should be really interesting. Kind of FC Dallas' surprise signing. Agier Ilaramendi.
Or Ilara.
Ilara, yeah, that's it. Ilara Mendy. Long time, La Liga side player, even time with Real Madrid. So really interesting player. They thought he was retiring, but he's coming back for at least the end of this year, maybe into next year. Very, very FC Dallas friendly contract, like an option for next year. So if they don't like what they see, they can go back and retire, buddy. But then the other signing that's a little more intriguing is this kid from this Canadian international, Liam Fraser, who can play center back and play D mid for you. So he is that immediate Edwin Cerrillo answer and has some European experience and some international experience. So really nice signing for FC Dallas if he can.
And has played for the Canadian national team and played against the U.S. Started against the U.S. So.
Yeah, so I guess my big question is both of those signings say to Facundo Quiñón that and Edwin Cerrillo being out was like, hey, we've given you a couple of years, you've had some good runs and you've had some forgettable runs as a D mid. He played a fantastic game for the most part. I think on Sunday night. I think he was a little bit late to Messi on that first goal, but he scored the equalizer, the response, which is which is fantastic. He has that in his locker occasionally. A strong performance. Is he earning a contract extension, or is this just going to be a free for all between these three players going into the end of the season to see who sticks around?
Well, my opinion is let's face it. We were talking about how Cerrillo was no longer pushing Quinion. That basically, where at the beginning of the season, you couldn't pick one or the other. They were basically even. But Carrillo had been separating himself from Quinion had been separating himself from Cerrillo of late, and so Cerrillo wasn't pushing him. You needed to do something to make sure that Quinion wasn't going to say, "Okay, I got the job. It's mine." and you wanted someone to come in, so you go out and get Ilara, who it may take him a bit to get in form and whatnot, but you're hoping as he gets in shape, in form, he'll eventually start pushing Quinion. And then you got Frazier, who basically is a guy who's going to come in and essentially be your either your third DM or your fourth center back, and really is young enough and has enough experience that he can push those ahead of him, which is what you want in this team. You want competition. You want somebody to push Quinion and to push Ibiaga or Tafari or whoever isn't starting. You want competition in the back line if this team's going to improve. Tomasi's back. He'll push Giovanni Jesus. And I mean, I don't expect Farfan to get pushed by Hunqua, but let's face it, Hunqua looks like he could push him. He's played excellent as where do you need me to play as a Hollingshead type. So if Frazier and Hunqua give you those kind of players that are going to be willing to play wherever you want them to play, and have very little drop off, if any, when they play. So I'm pretty excited about these moves. It gives the team flexibility, and like I said, I'm excited the fact that this team scored 11 goals in a 4-match stretch. This attack has looked the best I've seen it in a long time, and you have to be excited about the possibility of this team being very dangerous going forward if they can just figure out the defense and get that whole, even though they scored 11 goals, they did allow they allowed almost as many goals. So that's there's work to do, but I do like where this team is heading. This looks like a team that could, now that they're healthy, turn the tables on what we've seen before from Dallas and be an actual team that may actually get hot as the season goes forward, as we head into the playoffs.
I just wanted to add, I think the addition to the goals that you're seeing scored right now is because our six is playing so well. You don't have Jesus Ferreira tracking back nearly as much. He's already involved in the play. He's drawing defenders early. He's opening up space for other people. This is what we've needed for a long time. I think early in the season, a message was put out. One of you guys is going to go because it's not consistent. You're competing for your job. And somebody stepped up, and that's who we kept. And at that same point, we've planned for the future. We have these two wonderful signings, like you pointed out. Everything you said about them is true. This is probably one of the best competitive signings and smart signings that I've ever seen us do in a summer transfer window. I think it's phenomenal. You're setting yourself for the future and for the immediate. And I'm very excited for what's to come.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Leggett, who, besides Velasco, he's overshadowed by the fact that Velasco had a tremendous tournament, but Leggett also had a solid tournament. And in fact, that pairing worked so well. And I want to say that the problem with Velasco when everybody was injured was that he was getting all the attention. More pressure was put on him, and he wasn't stepping up to it. But now that Jesus is back and Leggett is back in form and Kamungo clearly took a step forward, and now Velasco has room to operate. And now you're seeing him thrive because of the pairing, because they complement themselves so well. They attack us. The only thing slowing down the attack is the fact that O, which stands for offside, O'Brien, is love the guys combative spirit, but clearly somebody else needs to be starting instead of him. And he's a player that should be coming off the bench, running against tired legs. But again, like I said, that's really the only issue we've had is but because you moved Velasco to the center, you'll just have to figure out who your left winger is, and it could be Ansa, could be Areola. If they go to two defensive midfielders and start Velasco as a 10, you could actually move Leggett out to the wing also. So this team now, I think, is set up in a way that if everyone's healthy, the coach is going to have some difficult decisions to make, and it's going to have a lot of options on how to line up this team and try to confuse other teams.
Yeah, good
It ain't
stuff.
perfect. It ain't perfect, but options are always good.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, and as we begin to wrap up the show, we'll also shift over to North Texas, who got a lot of love because of Bernard Kamungo's story. And, media folks.
I
Oh,
got
go ahead.
I got my last hot take, which I
All
said
right.
to you guys, and I want to say it so y'all, if it happens, I can take sole credit for it. But I was just telling the guys, and they were laughing at me, and I said, "Hey, we may have just seen a preview of MLS Cup with Miami against FC Dallas." I know. Hey, I know FC Dallas fans are very pessimistic, but I'm not pessimistic, and I'm just saying if Dallas can bottle that attack and either of those two DMs hit, Dallas is gonna be a very tough team to beat. They are gonna be a very tough team to beat, and let's face it, the West doesn't really have a dominant team this year. It's wide open. LAFC is starting to show signs that they're getting back there, but let's face it, in any bracket, LAFC is going to be on one side of the bracket, and FC Dallas is going to be on the other side, unless for some reason FC Dallas, you know, it's most likely it'll be on opposite sides of the bracket. That's the
That
one
would be
team you
They
have to look
could
at.
bring you, they could bring you home field advantage in a playoff run, right, for first round. That's what those
Exactly.
signings should do.
I'm just saying, I like what I see from Dallas, and the fact that the West is such a why not? Why not FCD? If FCD gets hot, they have the tools, I think,
All right.
to
I
make a
like that
run.
hot take.
That's my hot take.
Well, I was going to jump over.
North
Just mentioned
Texas.
North Texas SC lost their Saturday evening game. Another disappointing result on the road, 2-1, after a really great victory at home. And
Yeah.
of course, they've been getting a good. Thanks for joining us.
That's great.
Dallas Beer Destroyer. That was fun.
Daniel, I like it.
Sweating to the oldies there, but
Make me want to work out.
yeah, I know. It's like, well, I'm going to go work out for this.
Getting the sweat just watching.
But yeah, North Texas, it felt like maybe they started to turn a corner last weekend, a 4-0 victory at home, and then this when they go to Minnesota, they fall behind 2-0. The same kinds of goals that they have had a trouble with in the past. They grabbed one back, Thomas Pondeka, with a fantastic fantastic little goal to put them back in it, but just too little, too late. But the good news for North Texas, I think, is one, they can continue to point to Bernard Kamungo. They can point to, hey, we may not be winning on the field right now as much as where we want to be, but this is a venue for young players to come, to develop, and to get a chance with the senior team. So the sky's the limit. That's a good marketing pitch, and I think they picked up a couple of players that are interesting. A defender, a U.S. kind of international defender who's spent some time in Europe today. I don't see his name is, but also Lautaro Tabata, Argentinian.
Thabo Nare, N-A-R-E.
Yeah, some interesting guys that, obviously I think at this point in the season we don't think these guys are necessarily gonna ball out and make it the senior team next year, but it's the beginning of that journey.
I have a little insight for you on that. By
Okay.
The way. So there was the three additions. You had Lacey, you had Thabo Nare, and then you had Lautaro, the Argentinian kid. Of those three, Lautaro is the big signing. They basically stole him from a second division team that basically think of him as your as a Pickering or one of the guys that FC Dallas lost to a USL team. He's that kind of player. He's basically was their best prospect, and the fact that they were unable to sign him, it's a huge get for North Texas. But here's my my little insider thing you guys should know is they both have something common. The guy that just signed Nare, who's a left back, who by the way is going to be replacing Rose on the roster, who was lost to injury for the rest of the season. And the one thing they both have in common, technically all three have in common, is all three players were in preseason with North Texas, with Nare, and Lautaro was also here as trialists. So these guys didn't come out of nowhere. Lautaro was basically a trialist for North Texas, but he couldn't sign because he wasn't of the age yet. And basically, as soon as he got old enough, boom, they signed him. So he was basically a guy who impressed, but they had to wait to see what happened between him and his team before they could sign him. So he's a guy they wanted, and they got. And Nara is another guy who was basically beaten out by Rose, who was signed during preseason. So, but these guys are no strangers to the staff. They're not. Oh, where'd they find these guys? These guys were in North Texas. They were trialists, so they're not some guys that they hey, you got anybody available? These are guys that they wanted, that they targeted, that they were probably going to get all along. You know, so so that tells me that they're not just, hey, let's grab these guys and see if they have anything. These are guys that they've actually seen play and know what they bring to the table. Now the question is, how fast can they, work them into the system? And there was a rumored signing too, wasn't there? Wasn't there a fourth rumored signing? A 16-year-old kid that hasn't been verified, but there was a rumor of a 16-year-old kid got signed by FC Dallas. But,
Yeah, no, I
but he looks more like a North Texas signing, in all honesty. And when I heard the rumor is,
yeah.
hey, he wouldn't be the first 16-year-old that North Texas signed, in all honesty. And was that Brazilian kid that has the American that's
Yes.
American. I forget his name, but I wouldn't be shocked if that's another guy that they maybe he's just joining the academy and not necessarily signing with the FC Dallas. He might be an academy addition, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's being brought in is, hey, you're gonna practice with North Texas, maybe get minutes on the academy, and then play for the academy. So North Texas reinforced. Their biggest need is they really, really missing. I can't think of his name. Ferry. People forget that we have Blaine Ferry. Blaine Ferry had a really good season for us last year, pulling the strings for the team, and they're missing that playmaker. They're missing that guy that unlocks the defenses, and therefore defenses are able to just you got Hope Avayevo, who is getting back into form, and it's really their only creative playmaker, and they need someone centrally. They got some young kids who are still kind of raw, and so hopefully this Argentinian kid that they signed, hopefully he can add a little something there and making abilities. And Pondeka, let's not forget, he's still transitioning to soccer at this level, at this professional level. So it's growing pains, I don't doubt that they're going to turn around, but it may be too little too late. They're running out of time to get their season straightened out.
Yeah, so it's like about 6 games left. They're only about 6 points back, roughly, from kind of sneaking into a last place kind of playoff position. But other teams have a couple of games in hand. It's not a very good scenario. Now, if North Texas got 18 points from here on out, they'd at least be in conversation, But that's pretty unlikely, at this point. But a game at a time is all you can do, And those other teams are going to drop points here and there as well. So it may not be 18 points. It may be, can you get 12 over these last 6 games? And we'll see.
Well, I think honestly the goal should be to try to get a run, but at the same time, a lot of the players that they brought in, the international players they brought in, players they took risks on, they're basically in a show me, type of time left. They got to show what they got, because let's face it, that's where the changes are going to have to be made next year. North Texas has played a lot of young players, and those young players will only get better, so they're not going anywhere. But it's going to be your Henry, your Ferreira, Weber, some of these guys that they brought in that really have not played to the standards of previous international signings. Those are the guys that are on the clock. They need to get it together. They need to show that they can up their game, and that even if North Texas misses playoffs, if they can go on a run, then you'll see some of these guys brought back. But at this point, North Texas is going to be basically, yes, I am watching Minnesota fall apart. I am watching Minnesota fall apart in the Leagues Cup right now. Uh, I actually have the game on too. So, uh, yeah, it's 1-2, and now it's 2-2 as Toluca has just scored on a PK.
Oh my
So,
lord,
oh boy,
we got
but
draws
still,
everywhere. Nashville and
it's
Club
still 50
America.
minutes to go, but the momentum's all Toluca right now. So,
Wow.
but yes, hey, I'm just saying, North Texas, that's what they're playing for. They're playing for,
Sure.
hey, let's right the ship because some of these guys will not be coming back. Like I said, Henry has been a starter on the back line, pretty much the one back line player that has started all year for a back line that frankly has not been very good all season. So, do you bring him back? He hasn't. He came in with a high pedigree, and let's frankly, Henry is a guy that would have been excuse me, in the past would have been a Clavijo special. You got a guy who's considered a high end uh, prospect who got injured, coming back from injury, and signed with North Texas, and has basically this season has been him basically trying to get back to 100% from the type of injury that takes 2 years. So that would be my big question: is has Henry in the season where the defense has been not to prior North Texas standards? I don't know how much he's playing, but it can't be cheap. Do you bring a guy like that back? Do you really bring any of the international signings and loans back? Because that's where you can make the biggest improvement is to purge and start over there.
Well, good stuff. Well, we need to leave it there. Appreciate everyone joining us. Appreciate Dallas Beer Destroyer for joining us on a whim and conversation, good comments. Appreciate everybody. A lot of Leagues Cup to continue to watch here. About 10 more minutes left in a lot of these games. We'll see if Nashville or America can get through, or who between Philly and New York. Some nail biters. All right, so
I'll be watching Leagues Cup, but not
yeah.
as much as I was watching it when FC Dallas was still there. And no, I will not be tuning in cheering for teams to beat Messi. If it happens, it happens. I'm not for or against Messi advancing. It's good for the league, if he goes forward. And honestly, I think it's good for the league if he doesn't go forward either. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Any
All
attention
right.
is good attention.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Of course, check out afterburn.soccer, our blog for the latest news and updates and pontification and stuff like that. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.